convicted on all counts, he could face a life in prison term. And if you have followed the witness stand as to Cassandra Ventura, aka who's now Casey Fine, because she is now married, at that time, why she is in the witness stand is because she was very closely associated to P. Diddy and was a lover, but also happened to be sexually affected by P. Diddy, and all sorts of crimes were committed on her, according to her witness testimony. Now, if you've followed her story, if you've listened to every bit of her statement in the witness doc, whew, not any woman can easily stomach her testimony. It's heartbreaking, and one would wonder, men, why would you use sex as a form of manipulation? Why? What degree of insecurity and incompleteness is that? Anyways, that aside, another of Bobi Wine's bodyguards, that is Noah Mutwe, has reportedly been reported to be mysteriously abducted. And that is a story that is developing, and definitely we'll be following up on it as it develops. But for now, good morning, Uganda. Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono is with me in studio. Good morning, Robert.
Well, you started with a question. Why would men, and I must say the world is morally decayed. There is a lot of moral decadence, and it's not only on the side of the men, right, but also on the side of the women. Just that, of course, the men having an upper hand in terms of how wealth has been distributed, fame has been distributed, but by and large, we must address the issue of moral decadence. The world has gone to something else in terms of immorality, in terms of what that SEX word, there is so much. And
allow me to chip in, when you use the word SEX, it makes it feel, as society has painted it, that sex is immoral. But in actual sense, it's a beautiful thing that was created by God, except that humans have chosen to corrupt it and make it look bad. In that, so much so that even when it's taught to a child, someone who's growing and becoming an adult, it's taught from a negative connotation, as opposed to the right perspective as God embodied it and created it to be, because he's the origin of that whole conversation. But surely, indeed, if you ask me, aside from moral decay, I think it's also an issue of being insecure. Men, it's just an ordination, a natural, a principle that men should be in the seat of leadership. They should be in the seat of protection. They should be in the seat of preservation. They should be in the seat of comfort and build a nation as women help. But if men are not in their positions, if men are insecure, if men are not the men they're supposed to be, and that starts from when they're boys, these are the men that we see who commit such crimes. Their security is found in sexual offenses, which is very, very, very myopic, if you ask me.
Well, for me, I'll begin with good news. I just want to congratulate my good friend, Frank Gashumba. Yesterday, he brought home, or he was officially introduced to the family of his fiancée. We just wish him the very best. And of course, we thank him for that step, because now he's moved away from the renowned top bachelors of this land.
Right.
So because there's been that sometimes, and we're happy, because that is what God created man to be, that finally, at a certain level, you know, in Africa, there are things we cherish as African men that has kept us together. One, there is an age you expect an African man unless your wife died. But even when your wife dies, we get you somebody that you must be married. And if you're not that very good of an example in society. Some of the things we are running away from are what made us as Africans, are what made peace in our society, are what made men men. You see, when you find a man bragging in being single, and that man clocks 40, goes to 50, there's a problem.
What if he was created, and that's not their purpose? Created to be single, and their energy is supposed to be elsewhere.
That is your Western world. But for us in Africa, in the creation of God, when creating an African man, an African woman, gets married, an African man marries, because for us there's continuity.
You've used God in this conversation.
Yes.
And let me bring you to the Bible, which still applies to God. Paul the Apostle never got married. He invested his energy in the gospel of Christ.
You see, those are people
does it make him
the Pope
incomplete?
Doesn't get married, doesn't marry. Priests don't. There are specific people who have specific callings.
Just like every individual,
But-
people have specific callings.
And even the Bible is clear. Well, we are not going to preach here, but I was also going to bring more scriptures and scriptures.
Right.
But away from Gashumba, also there is a report that came out yesterday, and it is showing how tuberculosis in our prisons is at a very, very high level, where we see that tuberculosis prevalence in prisons is 8 times higher than what we have outside prisons. It's not very good news. Remember, our prisons are densely populated. They should have a capacity of about 20,000, but you're talking about 29,000 inmates in space of about 20,000 people. And you know how tuberculosis easily moves in such areas. So we hope and pray that some intervention comes in to reduce these numbers, because being a prisoner is another issue. Then being sick while in our prisons is also another issue. If outside medication has challenges. Now, think of these people who are inmates and they are suffering from TB, they are coughing constantly, all the signs of tuberculosis.
And they are packed in cells.
And they are packed in cells. The diety, it's a complicated issue.
Right. With that being said, Robert, let's have a look at what is on the local scene.
I'll start with the fight against poverty by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, where President Museveni commended the parish development model beneficiaries who have put their money to good use. Museveni, who met some of the beneficiaries yesterday while starting his PDM zonal tour in Toro sub-region, said those who have utilized their funds well will be part of wealth creators in the country. President Museveni, while visiting the farmers under his Tororo tour, commended them for putting the PDM funds into good use. Museveni, who was impressed, said if everyone utilized the PDM funds well, it would be a takeoff point for better development. The First Lady boasted about the NRM government being the only government that has concentrated on empowering its people at grassroots level. The Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, and the Minister for ICT, Chris Baryomunsi, said it's only time that will prove those opposing PDM wrong. Bunyangabo district is reportedly among the top 40 districts that have performed well in the implementation of the parish development model. The area leaders attributed it to commitment of the people. The Ministry of ICT and National Guidance is taking significant steps towards digitalizing public service delivery. ICT officers from ministries, departments, agencies, and local governments convened for a pivotal meeting aimed at enhancing collaboration and digital transformation across government entities. The meeting, presided over by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Amina Zawede, brought together IT and communication officers from ministries and local governments across the country. The Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, through the GROW project, launched the Gender Inclusive Financing Innovation Expo, an initiative aimed at removing financial barriers and promoting women's full participation in economic development. Officiating at the event, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Matthias Kasaija, reaffirmed the government's commitment to empowering women entrepreneurship and emphasizing that women are at the heart of national economic progress. The Generating Growth Opportunities and Productivity for Women Enterprise, this GROW project, supports women-owned micro and small enterprise, especially those in which women own at least 51% of the business. However, with ownership requirement has excluded many aspiring women from accessing these critical loans. This has led to many women relying on informal financial service providers, exposing them to high interest rate, theft and financial fraud. Organizing this GROW project aims at catalyzing institutional and market-level improvement through the GROW financing facility, innovations grants, women entrepreneurial financing, and learning labs. The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Matia Kasaija, said government has laid the groundwork for expanding financial inclusion for women, recognizing that women empowerment is the engine of the informal sector. And now finally, from the local scene, the Uganda Human Rights Commission unveiled to Parliament its 27th annual report on the state of human rights for the year 2024. Presenting the report to the Commissioner of Parliament, Matthias Mpuuga, who represented the Speaker, the chairperson of the Commission, Mariam Wangadia, presented the rights and freedom situation in Uganda. Some of the thematic human rights areas that the Commission monitored in 2024 are the human rights implications of Uganda's tax system, the traders' strike, the liberalization of the education and human rights implication, among others. The report also indicates inspections of spaces of detention carried out by the Commission in 257 police stations, 118 police posts, 78 government prisons, and 4 remand homes. The Commission noted prison overcrowding as a major challenge in prisons. The Commissioner of Parliament, Matthias Mpuuga, assured the Commission in raising the concerns outlined in the report to the authority. Mpuuga, however, advised the Uganda Human Rights Commission to focus their budget on expanding in hard-to-reach areas where violators go unpunished.
Neutral or independent, as Israel pledged to facilitate the effort without being involved in aid deliveries. This particular distribution plan does not accord with our basic principles, including those of impartiality, neutrality, independence, and we will not be participating in this. Deputy UN spokesperson Farhan Haq told reporters last Thursday. Now, the US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation will start work in Gaza by end of May under a heavily criticized aid plan that the UN aid chief Tom Fletcher described as a fig leaf for further violence and displacement of Palestinians in Gaza. Speaking to reporters in Antalya, Turkey, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Thursday acknowledged the criticisms and said Washington was open to any alternative plan to get aid to civilians without Hamas being able to steal it. We're not immune or in any way insensitive to the suffering of the people of Gaza, and I know that there's opportunities here to provide aid for them, Rubio said after speaking with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier on Thursday. Now, moving on to Trump, who is on a visit in the Middle East. President Donald Trump has hailed deepening ties between the United States and the United Arab Emirates and said that the latter will invest $1.4 trillion in the former's artificial intelligence sector over the next decade. I have absolutely no doubt that the relationship will only get bigger and better, Trump said on Thursday at a meeting with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan on the final leg of his 3-country tour of the Gulf region that saw him strike a series of lucrative tech, business and military deals that he said amounted to $10 trillion. Sheikh Mohammed said the UAE remained committed to working with the United States to advance peace and stability in our region and globally. The deal with UAE is expected to enable the Gulf country to build data centers vital to developing artificial intelligence models. The countries did not say which AI chips could be included in UAE data centers. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang had earlier been seen in conversation with Sheikh Mohammed and Trump. The AI agreement includes the UAE committing to invest in, build or finance U.S. data centers that are at least as large as powerful as those in the UAE, the White House said. And finally, the Gambian government has announced an investigation into the sale of assets seized from former President Yahya Jammeh following widespread public concern. Some of the assets, including livestock and luxury vehicles, were sold off while a panel was still investigating the wealth of Jammeh amassed during his 22-year rule. A newspaper investigation exposed alleged irregularities and an apparent lack of transparency in the sale of the assets, sparking protests organized by young people. In a televised address on Wednesday night, President Adama Barrow pledged full transparency in the probe, saying assets recovered belong to the people. Jammeh, who seized power in 1994 and in a coup, is accused of orchestrating the huge theft of government funds as well as extensive human rights abuses, including killing and jailing his critics. The former leader, who in 2017 fled into exile in Equatorial Guinea after losing elections, has previously denied allegations of wrongdoing. And in 2017, President Barrow set up a commission to investigate alleged corruption and financial misconduct by Jammeh during his 2-decade-long rule. The panel, popularly known as the Jammeh Commission, concluded its findings in 2019 and recommended the forfeiture of assets linked to Jammeh and his associates. Well, that's it from the foreign scene. What's in the dailies today, Robert?
Well, so much is there, but we'll begin with the New Vision, where 2026 polls, 31 resident district commissioners quit. Who are some of these? Now, we have for Mityana, we have Bukoma Nsimbi, Hood Hussein also quits here, and these are leaving to go into politics, seemingly some for 2026. They have served as resident district commissioners. Now they feel it is time to go into politics. Now let's take a look at them. Deputy Resident District Commissioner Mityana, Yasin Ndibede, that one has left. Deputy Resident District Commissioner Sembabule, Deputy Resident District Commissioner Kapuchora, Deputy Resident District Commissioner Kagadi, Resident District Commissioner Buvuma, that is Jackie Birungi. We have Assistant Resident District Commissioner Bugweri, Resident District Commissioner Otuke, and Resident District Commissioner Namisindwa, Deputy Resident District Commissioner Bukoma Nsimbi, Deputy Resident District Commissioner Pakwach, Deputy Resident District Commissioner Nyendo, now, and many others. There are 31 of them, so I can't go through all of them, but they are saying, yes, 2026 is here. We
and
must
here
go
we
for
come,
greener
so
pastures. Now, Gashumba, the Mugole, the New Vision has him on the front page, and President Museveni's parish development model tour there, and Mama Janet in one of the beneficiaries' gardens there. Then tears in Uganda's comedy. What exactly are they referring to? Coming down, UDCL blames blackout on Umeme. Weren't we promised heaven on earth? And now Uganda scientists receive a word from UK King. Which scientist is that? Well, the New Vision brings you that. Allow me quickly shift to the Daily Monitor. Wangadia hits back at General Muhoozi. And the lizard quickly says, doesn't she fear the basement? Now, how the budget will be shared. Well, they're giving you an insight into the budget and how what we expect to collect and how we plan to spend it as a country. You can look out and see, are we having the priorities right? And jobs there, opportunities at the Forum for African Women Educationalists, FAWE, also Busoga, and the forestry. Those are some of the stories in the dailies this morning.
Right, and moving on to the Citizen in Tanzania, trillions directed to mega projects despite concerns. That is a headline in the Citizen. And meet Masawe, Tanzania's tour guide championing domestic tourism. And Finnish President advocates new global vision of innovation. That is a story in the Citizen. And Tanzania moves to establish centralized education data system. Quickly moving on to the Daily Nation in Kenya, shame of political thuggery. That is a story headlining the Daily Nation. New school system links data with Maisha number. And still in the Daily Nation, unfit for office, the case against 4 IEBC nominees. And quickly looking at what is in the Gazette as of 16th May 2025. Contents there: the Marriage Act notice, the Mining and Minerals Act notice, the Education, Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act notices, the Political Parties and Organizations Act notice, the Advocates Act notices, the Companies Act notices, the Insolvency Act notices, the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Regulations notices, the Electricity Act, Local Government, Architects Registration Act, the Police Regulations notices, Trademark Acts, and the Trademark Act registration of applications. The other is Trademark Act's alteration of trademarks. And in there is the Forensic and Scientific Analytical Services Bill 2025, which is Bill number 17, as well as statutory instruments. Number 48, the Financial Institutions Corporate Governance Amendment Regulations 2025, and the Collective Investment Schemes Licensing Regulations 2025. There is a general notice of the Marriage Act to recognize a place of worship that is supposed to allowed by the government of Uganda to marry people. The church is St. Paul's Rubare, Church of Uganda, denomination Anglican, village Chabakuju, and parish is Akatojo. Sub-county Rubare, town council, county in Rushenyi, district in Tungamo, as of 16th April 2025 by Honorable Norbert Mao. And the Mining and Minerals Act notice of grant of an exploration license, hereby notified that exploration license number EL00469, registered as number 003510, has been granted in accordance with the provisions of Section 43 and Section 47 to Shanik Resources Uganda Limited, PO Box 654 Entebbe, for a period of 4 years effective 18th March 2025. And the exploration area subject to the exploration license is 137,076 square kilometers, and is on topography map sheet numbers 56/3 and 55A/4, situated in Bundibujo district as of 19th day of March 2025. This is by Honorable Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa Sentamu. And the other to take note of is from the Ministry of Education: new appointment replacements to Board of Governance in exercise of powers conferred by Section 29 of the Education, Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act 247. I hereby appoint the following persons to be the Board of Governors of Kapyoyon High School with effect from 20th January 2025. And the persons are Foundation Body Representatives: Chibet Fred, Kusuro Nelson, Wanjala Cedric Wanyonyi, Soko Patrick Muniera, and Chelangat Justin. Parents representatives are Langat Kenneth Kokoi and Semateo Godfrey. Well, that's it from all the dailies. For now, let's have a short break as we enjoy a song from Jose Chameleon Bwerere.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
That step, because now he's moved away from the renowned top bachelors of this land.
Right.
So because there's been that sometimes, and we're happy because that is what God created man to be, that finally at a certain level. You know, in Africa there are things we cherish as African men that has kept us together. One, there is an age you expect an African man unless your wife died. But even when your wife dies, we get you somebody that you must be married. And if you're not that very good of an example in society. Some of the things we are running away from are what made us as Africans, are what made peace in our society, are what made men men. You see, when you find a man bragging in being single, and that man clocks 40, goes to 50, there is a problem.
What if he was created and that's not their purpose? Created to be single and their energy is supposed to be elsewhere.
That is your Western world. But for us in Africa, in the creation of God, when creating an African man, an African woman gets married, an African man marries, because for us there's continuity.
You've used God in this conversation.
Yes.
And let me bring you to the Bible, which still applies to God. Paul the Apostle never got married. He invested his energy in the gospel of Christ.
You see, those are people
Does
who
it
have
make,
gone-
does it make him
The Pope
incomplete?
doesn't get married, doesn't marry. Priests don't. There are specific people who have specific callings.
Just like every individual.
But-
People have specific
But,
callings.
and even the Bible is clear. Well, we are not going to preach here, but I was also going to bring more scriptures and scriptures.
Right.
But away from Gashumba, also there is a report that came out yesterday, and it is showing how tuberculosis in our prisons is at a very, very high level, where we see that tuberculosis prevalence in prisons is 8 times higher than what we have outside prisons. It's not very good news. Remember, our prisons are densely populated. They should have a capacity of about 20,000, but you're talking about 29,000 inmates in space of about 20,000 people. And you know how tuberculosis easily moves in such areas. So we hope and pray that some intervention comes in to reduce these numbers, because being a prisoner is another issue. Then being sick while in our prisons
Right.
is also another issue. If outside medication has challenges.
Right.
Now, I think of these people who are inmates and they are suffering from TB, they are coughing constantly, they are, you know, all the signs of tuberculosis.
And they're packed in cells.
And they are packed in cells.
Right.
The diety, it's a complicated issue.
Right. With that being said, Robert, let's have a look at what is on the local scene.
I'll start with the fight against poverty by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, where President Museveni commended the parish development model beneficiaries who have put their money to good use. Museveni, who met some of the beneficiaries yesterday while starting his PDM zonal tour in Toro sub-region, said those who have utilized their funds well will be part of wealth creators in the country. President Museveni, while visiting the farmers under his Tororo tour, commended them for putting the PD.
Jordan Lukomwa.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by.
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, dundolo.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning, Uganda. Thank you so much for choosing UBC TV here to always inspire you. Once again, my name is Julie Nantaba Mosisi, and it's time for The Real, where we get to engage in a topic of discussion as we share our 2 cents and what we really know about that particular topic. But we do not leave you out. You are very much a part of this topic and this conversation. So 0709-602-592 is the WhatsApp number to engage so as to be a part of this conversation. And in today in particular, we are looking at the illicit use of drugs by young people, which eventually result into mental health disorders amongst young people. Now, I'm not alone in studio. With me is Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono, the usual suspect as always. But in a special way, we do have somebody who is always on the show from the other side, as he watches us, as he comments, as he participates on every topic of discussion. Today, he's in studio with us, and he's just not anybody. He is a leader at that, and a youth leader in his area. He is influencing in his community. His name is Cricket Derek Gargamel, and he is the chairman of the Friends of Heaven Youth Choir in Masaja Parish. So I'll start with Derek by saying good morning, Derek.
Good morning, Julie.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, my pleasure too. I'm so happy to be here once again. This is my home. I've been coming, but I've not been yet privileged to come to happen to be on air. So I'm so honored for this privilege. And to our viewers, you know, it's funny. I've been always watching. Now it is my turn to be watched. So to our viewers, eyes on UBC, hands off your remotes.
Right. Profound indeed. Robert, once again, good morning.
A lovely morning to you. Happy having Cricket on set.
Right.
He's one of those people that never miss this show.
That's true.
So welcome and thank you for being with us. How did it feel like waking up very early?
Oh, okay. I try it once in a while, but I last tried it consistently when I was still in school. But it's not easy. You people, I credit you. Yeah, I really credit you.
Right.
But yeah, I set my alarm very early. Then I had to make it here.
Right.
I know. Yes.
Right. Now, based on the topic that we are having, you are a youth leader in your community.
Yes.
That means you see a lot that takes place in your community.
Yes.
You see the good, you see the bad. Yes. While you lead people in the Friends of Heaven Youth Choir, you don't only see those that you lead in the choir. You see even those outside of the choir. So share, what are your observations on how drugs are being used in your community by young people?
Well, thank you for that question. Yes, according to the society where I pass, people use them. Unlike the old days, people could use drugs secretly.
Right.
But I don't know where our world is running. It seems our world is running backwards. People nowadays using drugs confidently. They are using it without any caring what the impacts of them to the society. People proudly come up and then they declare how they smoke, and then you wonder. So this has affected us, and I always sit down and I wonder, people who always do that are not easily judged. These are the people who are looked at, you know, they can even eye for big political seats and they don't judge them. So I see, sometimes I look at our country and then I look at our young ones and I'm like, really God, what is going to happen? You find children below the teenage age, they started using drugs. And then you wonder, I don't know, because the world seems to be, you know, off track as we are growing. So I'm really worried about it. Right. So having chosen this side of church, I don't see it so much, you know, as I relate with the people, church people, but outside church, it is worse. So, yeah.
And you could actually find that even in church, it happens a lot. From my experience, it is said that church is a hospital. So this is where you actually find quite a number of people still dealing with a lot of struggles, especially with drug use. But the only difference is in church you find that there's ready help and there's a safe space to walk a journey with someone as it's a rehabilitation place of some way, but still sticking to the fact that you are in a choir. That means there's influence of music. how do you think, now let's flip it a bit to the what's on the general scene of music. If you watch music videos in the music industry alone in Uganda, how do you think the music industry is painting what drugs are and ultimately influencing the youth to consume drugs as if it's normal?
Well, if there is any industry that has adopted this policy,
Right.
it is the music industry. And I don't know, I stand to be corrected, but people who use it, they could tell you that maybe it helps in vocal. Or I remember gone are those days when I was also a musician, aspiring musician, and a friend of mine told me, if you want to sing that hard voice, my friend, you have to try this. And I couldn't even try it because
Right.
I've never dreamt about it. So the music industry is somehow blamed for this because most of the musicians have, come up and then declared how they use drugs. And then these are musicians which are not easily judged.
Right.
And then people who always come up to criticize, like my star, Big Size Bebe Crew, he has been consistent in criticizing drug usage. And these are the people who are looked at as like people who are jealousy, abatagaliza. So the industry itself is a whole mess, I must say. That's why even me, when I was I had interest in becoming a musician,
Right.
but I had to distance myself after observing that, and I was like, no, this is not me. So, and it is escalating as time goes on, so it is worrying, really. Yeah, so the industry, I think we need to do something.
Right.
I know, yeah.
Right. Now let me first head to Robert. Robert, please paint us a picture statistically, pardon me, statistically, of drug use amongst the young people in Uganda, which ultimately leads to mental health.
Well, according to statistics we have, it is 20 to 30% of our young or of our youth are engaged in drugs, and they have deteriorated to mental illness. And also a report by Ministry of Health shows that 9 out of 11 beds in hospitals reserved for mental health service seekers had patients whose condition resulted from alcoholism and substance abuse. Now,
Right.
when you go to our hospitals, 9 out of 11 beds.
Right.
These are people who have been using drugs, and they have reached that level where now they are mentally sick. So that is how bad the situation is. And yet, what we put in as government, it is only 1% of our health budget that is dedicated to mental health. And there are only 28 outpatient mental health facilities with limited service for children and adolescents. Now, much as the problem is very big, our input as a country is very, very small in terms of financing or prioritizing it. But I'm happy this talk is getting it every day. I want to thank civil society organizations. I want to thank the Ministry of Health, people, the Mental Health Uganda. There are many associations that have come up to talk about mental health and substance abuse. Because truth be told, these substances, this is something growing. And Cricket talked about those days when people were taking it stealthily.
Yeah.
Now, what they were taking also by then was in herbal form. You know, someone goes to the garden, he grew this weed, marijuana, picks it, dries it, or gets the seeds, gets a paper rose, or someone boils it on tea. Now, this had impact, and they would say yes. But today the danger we are having is we are having what we call laboratory made, where we are mixing chemicals. A case in point is ice. I don't know if you heard of ice, Derek.
I've ever heard about it, but I've not witnessed to see it.
Well,
as well.
if you find those taking it, even the way they take it, is also another thing to understand. Now, we have those that they have added certain things. Look at shisha. Many people think shisha is just tobacco. No. When you smoke tobacco, no matter how much you take in, you don't feel that moment where you're going off. But also, even there are other substances now. We are doing mixing. You find marijuana, the other one that is in leaf format, someone has added in what they call kuba. Now in the rolling, there's still something about remanufactured. So the advance, cocaine is also soon hitting, just at the cost of it. But even ice is expensive. Someone can't get a gram less than 50,000. So these are very big challenges that our country is facing right now. And the bad thing is we've come to accept. We've accepted. We are very complacent. Bavuka banywenjaga. Banywenjaga, it is normal.
At a country level and government level, let's and again, this is in regards to finding solution, perhaps. Now we know of countries that have accepted legally the creative use of cannabis, and when we talk about drug abuse, it's not just with the things that we talk about, marijuana or weed or ice, or drug use could even come from drugs that are from the pharmacy. Medical drugs, they can also easily be abused, which eventually can tarnish someone's mental capacity, right? So do you think the idea of adopting, legalizing the creative use of some of these drugs would work for Uganda? Let me first start with you, Robert. What are your 2 cents on that?
It can't work. You see, countries that have succeeded in legalizing, they have made it very hard to be illegal. You see, by the time you say let's legalize, I want to use the worst example, prostitution in Uganda. It means you've put methods that it is hard to carry out prostitution. You get it?
Okay.
Now, those countries that have legalized, it is very hard for you to have those substances illegally. Now come to Uganda. Even what is illegal, recently, is it called card, Mairunji? We woke up, it was in Parliament, a hard debate, the growers in Kasenge, there's a place around Entebbe Road, you branch off from Nebalame Mayanja, then you go, it's called Kasenge. The growers in Butambala, these are areas where this cat comes from. Came to Parliament, made noise here and there. Now we pronounced ourselves that it is illegal. I want to tell you, every time I move in Chisenyi, when I have, for many purposes, journalistic purposes, when you go to Chisenyi, you cannot be a fool to believe that this is an illegal business. The marijuana we are talking about today, it is illegal. Some, it's even grown in government forests. People who seek, then you go inside there. You find someone who has half an acre, quarter an acre. So why it can't work here? It will just make the problem deeper. Talk about the substances we are talking about today on our market. So it is useless having a law that you're not going to implement.
Right. Let me come to you, Derek. Still, share your perspective. If at all Uganda adopted the creative use of drugs like other countries have, do you think it would help?
I'll start by saying, God forbid, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah, because if you can tell me, I've tried to look for something positive from drug abuse. I've never found one. The people I see who use it, then they get addicted. The repercussions, my friend, for some of us who watch them from a distance, are like, we have a million reasons to thank God that we've never been tempted to take that trap.
Yes, but remember that drug abuse can be for all sorts of drugs, even those prescribed in medical centers, those that are sold in pharmacies. They can also be abused, which eventually makes it drug abuse. So we are looking at things like weed that is grown. If it just in case Uganda chose to adopt it for creative purposes, where there are boundaries and barriers of how people
for research purposes.
Thank you for research. Yes, for research purposes.
Medication and...
In case Uganda chose to have weed legal for creative purposes, do you think it would reduce on the rate at which youths are using it abusively?
I don't think so. Because according to how I know our population,
right.
First of all, we can't shy away from the fact that we are third world countries. That speaks volume for unemployment and being idle. And then these are some of the factors that contributes to drug abuse. So for what purposes, maybe that would be a question for another day. But
medication purposes.
Yes, medication,
yeah,
yes.
With drugs, because much as these are bad, some of them, they have a medicinal benefit. For example, the marijuana we are talking about, many in our communities,
Yeah.
if you had animals, you've been, even in the medication we take, these are there, but
There's
regulated.
components of
There are
marijuana.
components, looking at some of the
maybe-
painkillers and, you know, there is, you must accept. But
Let's first hear from what Gargamel
I
is
think
saying.
it's like a concoction. They mix it, but these people are taking one substance directly, which is very harmful.
Right.
I think, yeah. I think even we need serious regulation about this, because I think there is a law against drug usage. I mean abuse, isn't it, Mr. Robert? But although it is a weak one, I've seen so many people across, like there is a police station I know I won't mention, but just near a police station, youths parade themselves in broad daylight and then they begin smoking. So you cannot tell me why the police is just a few meters away from them. And then you sit down and you wonder, is there a law against this? So when you tell me that maybe for medicinal purposes, I don't even see that succeeding. Because for them, what comes into their minds when they think of drugs? This. So maybe the only factor I can think of when they are not too much in public, but there is accessibility to them, and then they are cheap. I don't know the types, but those cheap ones that make people go off and then they go astray.
Right.
They are cheap one and flexible one. So I don't think that for purposes of medicine and what they can work at all. So.
Thank you very much.
For me, I'm against.
Thank you very much, Derek.
Again.
Now somebody comes through. This is Morris Kagumba. Morris, you say that thank you for the show. This is Morris Kagumba. Now in Mbale, the youth should be mentored by parents because it is from home where we start with life. But most parents do not care for their children and just send them to be mentored by schools and their peers. Thank you so much, Morris, for that. Observation. 0709602592 is the WhatsApp number to which you can engage and share your opinion. We are looking at substance abuse amongst the youth, which ultimately leads to mental health disorders and all the things that we see. Somebody recently mentioned that every mad person we see on the street is not actually mad. They are actually suffering from a mental health disorder due to drug abuse, and lately there are many.
No, and when you go to our national hospital, Butabika, that deals with mental illness, they will tell you that over 80% of their patients are a result of substance and drug abuse. Yes, that is how big the problem is. They're supposed to treat people who have had issues, but now these are people who have used drugs, and the drugs have become a catalyst for them to disconnect. And that is where we're spending a big chunk of our money to treat these people. However, there are also some, you know, there's a private wing also, where rehabilitation is very expensive, but their families are paying an arm and a leg to ensure these people get better. For example, if you look at, I will speak of one of the musicians that I'm proud of now, that has become an advocate, and that is Jackie Chandiru.
Right, yes.
I was with her last week, and we had a talk at the launch of also a certain group is called Thaddeus Promotions, was unveiling Grace Khan, some local artist who had also gone down the drain.
Right.
So she has worked on herself with the help of Jackie Chandiru. She has even been signed again, and these people can speak about what drugs can do. Also Jackie Chandiru. But one of the biggest challenge is this treatment is damn expensive.
And actually, if you talk about Jackie Chandiru, her story is even the drug she was particularly abusing was a drug prescribed in hospital. It was meant to help her with back pain, but along the way it became an addiction. Now coming to you, Derek, what role do you're an influence, and why I'm asking is because you're a leader, you're influencing, there are people who are listening to you. There are young people who listen to what you have to say. So allow me pose this to you. What role do you think influencers or even musicians, as Robert has placed it, what role do you think they play in shaping the youth against the use of drugs?
Yeah, first of all, people like influencers or celebrities, or they must know that they have people who believe in them, who follow them, who are looking up to them. For any mess, they can divert many. For when they choose to do the right thing, they are example to many. So I think I call upon them to always be a good example to the people who always look up to them. For anything they do, which is not in good path, they are misleading so many people who are looking up to them, and people out there are always frustrated if these people, they trust come up and then they start, you know, being victims of drug usage, or they proudly come up and then they declare how they smoke, and then they do it publicly. You know, there are a few us people, a category of us who always want to distance ourselves from such kind of acts. So when I see my celebrity, a person I believe in, or anybody taking that path, I'm always frustrated. I'm always down, and I'm like, oh God. So let them always bear it in their minds that they are influencers. They have people who are looking up to them. They are setting good precedents to other people who are watching them.
Right.
I think, yeah. And I also personally, you know, I'm a leader at church, and I know so many people are looking up to me.
Right.
So when I choose to go wrong, of course, many people will either distance themselves from me, or we choose even to distrust me completely.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
That is if it's a normal society. Yeah, if it's an abnormal society,
Yes.
man, you've entered the thing.
You'll be cool.
You're very cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Robert, you have 2 cents, I see, to add to that. What role do you think musicians or influencers are playing in advising against the use of the misuse of drugs amongst the youth?
First, I'm happy that of late we are having a good ambassadors,
right,
who are talking bad about this, and experience has been their teacher. You know, experience is the best teacher, so they're out there and drumming these drums of let's not do that. But let's also let's not forget that when you promote the usage of drugs and substances, you're promoting criminality as well. You're promoting immorality as well. You're sending young girls, young boys into HIV. Because remember, what these do, they disorganize your right sense of judgment.
Robert, allow me interject a little bit. There's something you've said and it has painted a picture. Usually we've seen a few of Ugandan videos where you see people puffing on these big cigars. Well, it's ideas adopted from foreign music videos, especially in the USA, Hollywood, hip-hop culture. They usually have these as normal. And some of these ideas have been adopted into the Ugandan music industry. Whilst drugs and the abuse of drugs is illegal in Uganda, has there been any action taken to bar musicians from having such type of videos and exposed to the public?
The music industry has gone through a lot of progress and stages in this country, right from those singing for food, badongo, to a level now where these are young men, very responsible, having families. Previously, so it has gone through a series. Now, even regulating it has gone through a series. We may not yet have gotten there in terms of serious regulation. I want to thank the Uganda Communications Commission. I think it has gone in for nudity, obscenity, but we have not yet focused. And lastly, we have two things that are a problem in our country. Corruption, but also selective justice. You know, that if you're not in good terms maybe with someone, I'll give a quick example, Shisha. Shisha is illegal in this country.
Yet it's still active.
But they wake up one day and they'll say, they have raided this bar in Kololo. The next bar, people are comfortable smoking.
Right.
Is it selective justice? Is it corruption? Sound pollution. They wake up and tell someone, close, because you're polluting. That church, the sound it's making, there is a mosque here making the same, or another church making the same. So selective justice, corruption are the biggest challenges we are having in enforcement of our laws, and hence some of these problems shriving. An artist, if they're in good, they may have that in their video and maybe not interrupted. But should someone feel, oh, this person is now singing, hitting, we get him, then they'll say that song should never be played.
Because I mean, videos influence. The same way liquor is advertised, it's enticing you to buy that liquor. And it's the same way if an artist shoots a video and has all these ideas of drugs and drugs making them feel good, they are enticing somebody to actually go buy something to get them influenced. But Gargamel, let me pose this to you, and I also get your perspective as well, Robert, on this. As a youth, as a young person, life lives. Like the language that we use lately, life lives. Life happens. There are troubles of life that come and hit us. Especially as young people right now in Uganda, it's quite different from our seniors. How do you maintain and maneuver through life without necessarily having to indulge in any form of substance?
Well, thank you for that question. For starters, I think it starts from the family.
Right.
Just like they say, family is the smallest unit of something like that. So, how you were raised, if your parents were serious on you, then they chose to take their eyes on you as you grow up, and then you are raised morally upright. I think for some extent, you cannot take a wrong path. Then the society, if you've been nurtured well, there are people who always look up to you. There are people who believe in you. So at times you sit down and you are like, how can Mrs. So-and-so see me taking this path?
But have you had the statement made amongst, in our society that parents give birth to bodies, but they have no control over the spirits?
Yeah, I know.
And the Bible, I believe that you read as well, says that raise up a child in the way of the Lord. That means, and they will not depart far from it. That means there are chances that along this journey of life, this child might experience life on their own terms. However, the good news is they'll always come back to where it started. So what happens in between there when life is happening to this child, and sometimes the parent is not aware, and this child is actually indulging in one way or the other. Would you still acknowledge the statement that if I think about Mrs. So-and-so, or would you still think about judge the nurturing of this child and the parent that nurtured them?
Okay, I think here, I want, anyway, parents raise us, birth us, and always raise us to a certain extent, and then we have we reach a certain level when we have our free wills.
Right.
Okay, we always choose to take the path which we always choose to go. So some people, after parents being doing their role, they always take that wrong path, and then they do. So the blame is on them. But if you have no person, like I said, people you fear to see you going that wrong way, then you look up to yourself. I think let it be a question to people who are viewing. If you don't have that person, you always fear, like when you're messing up with things and you're like, my friend, how will I look when this one and this one sees me? Just know danger is on your side.
Now let me pose it to Robert. In your experience and in what you've seen along the journey of life, how do you maneuver through lifing without having, while controlling the idea of going bizarre in your mental state?
First, I want to begin with the parents' issue.
Right.
Parents have a role to play. Children are not ours. We are stewards. They belong to the Lord, for the Christians and those that have that perception. But then I come back to this side, the atheists and those that don't believe that. Even if you're 6 feet under the ground, where you didn't parent properly will haunt you. Recently, I saw a young man who fought with another. And when some big shot in government was trying to make them to settle the dust, his parents were brought. One of our top musicians, things they used to tell us in school. The father was here, the mother was here, and a mature man was there. Because he went attacked. You know, when a parent, you don't parent well, you don't instill those values in your children, as long as you live, they'll come back to you, even when you're 6 feet under.
Right.
So, what our parents shape us has a great impact. Second, the people, the friends around you, maybe have gotten in these drugs and substance abuse because of the choices of friends they make. And lastly, you've asked, how do I sail through? I want to say I'm a Christian. You know, when the storms of life come and you have a fallback, this is not a preaching platform, but there's faith in you, there's God in you, you have a caring family with you, there's always, you know, I can pray to God. There is solace in the Lord. There is solace. Where many people feel now it's the end of the world,
right. Profound.
Yes.
Very profound indeed. Now, this conversation has to come to a close, but let's end it with a few of your comments. Somebody comes through from Gulu City. You have such an interesting name. Hi, this is Jacob Olanya from Gulu City. Hello, UBC. Good morning. Selling point for drug abuse should be abolished and put against the law. Very well. Thank you, Jacob Olanya. And this is Nicholas from Naminya, sending greetings to all supporters of National Unity Platforms. Back to the point, people now, they are taking drugs because they are workless. Okay, they have no jobs, in other words. Even bad peer groups are being careless, and a lack of counseling against the children that are growing up with their parents. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for being on the show. And thank you so much to everyone who's been a part of the show. Thank you, Cricket Derek Gargamel.
You are most welcome,
It's
Judy.
good to have you on this side.
Oh, thank you
Usually
so much.
we've always had Cricket Derek on the other side of the show. Today we have him on this side, and it's a good experience.
Oh, I'm looking forward to come back again.
Yes.
As in style with my colleagues in Friends of Heaven Youth Choir,
That would be
Masaja
amazing.
Parish. Greetings to you, Friends of Heaven Youth Choir, Masaja Parish, and greetings to David, Alan, Dorcas, and Daniel.
Which voice do you sing in the choir?
I sing
Soprano,
tenor.
alto?
Oh, I cannot
You're
sing
a baritone.
soprano. Yeah, I sing tenor.
Tenor.
Tenor, yeah.
Great.
Soprano is a female voice.
Oh, there are
but-
men actually who do soprano.
I remember Robert one day he tried to challenge the Felix when he sang "Good Morning, Beautiful."
Oh, wow.
Then
You're a bass?
He pride in being a vocalist.
But Robert, do you sing at church?
No.
You cannot need to, okay.
But I just love worship. I enjoy worship.
Right.
But I'm not among the worship leaders, but in the back seat at Life Church Namasuba.
Right.
I just love the worship there.
Amazing. And speaking of singing, we have a special guest who's coming up, and special to me as well. It's a personal experience, one that I'm looking forward to. We do have Diplok Segawa, who's coming on the show to speak to us. UBC TV, yes, Soko Mnonye. UBC TV here always to inspire you, so stick around and stick your eyes on the screen, because the interview is going to be amazing, one that is so profound and one that to learn and learn and learn and relearn from. Good morning, Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Every Friday, 9 p.m., it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, dondolo.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Feel the passion of Europe's top soccer league. 20 teams battle to win.
And now Dusan Vlahovic! Rafael Leao!
The iconic Serie A Championship trophy.
Barella! Beauty!
This is Serie A, the home of culture.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwao.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Every Friday 9 p.m., it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwao.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, dondolo.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
TV always here to inspire you. Now, before many of today's stars held microphones, there was a gentleman who captured the soul of many Ugandans, inspiring generations and definitely setting trends as well as defining an era. Now, to many, the music was listened to. To me, I lived it. And his music inspired many. His music told stories of many. For example, that very one that has just played, that is Soko Munonye. Fun fact, Soko Munonye was the very song that my singer used to search out my husband on my introduction day while I introduced him to my parents. And the gentleman that we have in studio today is a legacy legendary musician, honored to be hosted in, on Good Morning Uganda at UBC. But also, I thank God that I get the opportunity to call him Dad. Once again, Good Morning Uganda, and welcome with me, Diplock Segawa. No, I don't know if I'm supposed to call you Dad or Diplock. Segawa. It's quite conflicting for me.
No, Diplock Segawa.
Okay.
We'll be professional.
Okay, I hope I'm able to get into it because I do not know how to address you by your name.
Sure.
But Diplock Segawa is a recipient of a Heroes Day Medal decorated by the President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And I'll start with this question. But before I even engage into the questions, please be a part of the show. 0709-602-592. That is a WhatsApp number to which you can share your opinion, ask questions, because there is a lot of knowledge seated in studio with us that you can learn to, especially if you are a creative. Now, Mr. Diplock Segawa, you started music as a young man.
Yes.
That is about how old?
We grew up in a musical home.
Yes.
So my memory of singing was at home.
Professionally, let's start with professionally.
Okay, if we start with professionally, we started in 1968, recording here in UBC. During that time, it was called Radio Uganda.
Right.
And we recorded songs of praise as a family choir. And you are determined to do something good. You set out the direction you want to have in your career.